guys, this is Vanessa from Mommyhood Lifestyle, and in this video today we're going to be talking about sleep training your baby and how I sleep trained my baby at 11 months old using the Sleep Sense program by Dana Obleman. So about 3.5 years ago my son was born and I was a first-time mom. I didn't know anything about taking care of babies essentially. I didn't know how much they slept, how much sleep they needed. I didn't know how to put them to sleep. I had never taken care of babies before. I wasn't around babies, so I was pretty much clueless. And I was using tips from my mom, my aunt, things like that, saying that my mom would just get us to sleep by nursing us to sleep, and that was pretty much it. That's all I knew about how to put a baby to sleep. And so I was going off of this for pretty much the first 11 months of my son's life. And at this point, I was nursing my son to sleep around the clock, 4 to 5 times a night. I completely dreaded bedtime because I knew that it was not going to be a sleep and restful night. So waking up 4 to 5 times a night just to get my son back to sleep by nursing him was not working out for either of us. And that's when I realized that I was using the nursing as a sleep prop, which is what I learned from the book about the Sleep Sense program, that the first thing you need to do is get rid of all sleep props. For me, it was nursing. So for some people, it could be a bottle to get your son to sleep or your baby to sleep. Some people, it can be rocking them to sleep, swaddling them, putting them in the car to get them to sleep. We're all guilty of that, I think. So even swaddling, in the book it recommends not to swaddle your baby past about 8 weeks, I think, because they need to learn how to sleep without being all bundled up either, because if they depend on that, then you're swaddling your baby till maybe they're 2-3 years old, and that also becomes a sleep prop as well. So first thing first, get rid of all your sleep props and start from 0 and then move forward. So you've gotten rid of all your sleep props, and the second thing you want to do is figure out a bedtime routine for your baby. My son's bedtime routine was, first we would get him in the bath, and then we'd put some lotion on him, and then put him in his PJs, read him a small baby book, and then I would nurse him again as his last feed for the night. But I would not let him fall asleep while nursing. So that was his bedtime routine. You can figure out a bedtime routine based on that, or maybe you can help pick up their toys, tidy up the room, anything that helps them get ready for bed, because pretty much all of us do things as a bedtime routine that wind us down at the end of the day so that we know that it's time to go to sleep. So this is what babies need as well, is the bedtime routine, so that they know at the end of this routine, sleep is coming. So we did this. We got my son through his bedtime routine. I gave him his last nursing for the night without letting him fall asleep while nursing, and then I would just lay him down in his crib. He was 11 months old at this time, and the first thing he did was jump right back up and start screaming and crying, which was expected because obviously he didn't know how to fall asleep yet on his own. This was the first time. He didn't know what was happening, and so he wanted to go back on to nursing so that I could put him back to sleep for him. But this was not what I wanted to do, so I just waited there by the crib. And what you can do is you stay by the crib, you use some key phrases, and you can help calm them down a bit, so that you don't want to just leave them there crying and leave the room, feel like you're abandoning your baby to fall asleep on their own. So what I did for the first 3 nights, you want to stay next to the crib. Pat his back, rub his back. Just don't let the rubbing or the patting put them to sleep. It's just help to calm them down. Calm them down so that they can get towards sleep again. And then also my son was old enough to stand, so he didn't know that he needed to lay down to sleep. So I would pat the mattress and say, lie down, and then use key phrases like, it's sleepy time, it's bedtime, it's sleepy time. So he knew that we needed to go to sleep. So I did this for the first 3 nights by the crib, stay by the crib, and it took about maybe 50 minutes, surprisingly, for him to actually fall asleep on his own. which is kind of a long time, especially when you're there hearing your baby cry and they're in distress and they're reaching out for you and things like that. But just remember that you're teaching your baby a life skill, an important life skill, and you will see progress with each night. So for the first 3 nights, like I said, stay by the crib. Use your key phrases and maybe calm them down with the rubbing them, patting them on the back, things like that. And if they're younger babies, you can, if they're getting really hysterical, you can always pick them up again, rock them for a bit till they're calm, and then once they're calm, lay them back down again, and keep doing this until essentially they fall asleep on their own. Each baby is going to be different. My son was surprisingly didn't take very long. Some people might take up to 2-3 hours a night. But it will get better. So after the first 3 nights of staying by the crib, then you want to move a little bit further away. So maybe use a chair, put it next to the crib, and then sit in the chair for the next 3 nights and do the same thing. You use your key phrases. You might pat them or rub them a little bit, rock them maybe a little bit if they're younger, and then put them back down again so that they can fall asleep on their own. So that's the next 3 nights. And you should see progress as well, that they're falling asleep sooner than the first 3 nights. And then you want to move a little bit further away from the crib for the next 3 nights again. Maybe move the chair towards the door and do the same thing. But try not to get up from the chair if you don't have to. Maybe you can still use the key phrases. Keep repeating, it's sleepy time, it's bedtime. And then if you really have to go and pick them up or, pat them on the back, then just go calm them down and then return back to your chair. And again, they will make progress. From there, you're going to move to the door. So you're going to be farthest away from the room towards the door, and then you'll do that for another 3 nights, the same thing. And then by that time, they should be getting to sleep a lot sooner. After you lay them down, then you can move outside of the door. And from there, you're going to be using your sleep monitors if you have them, of course. I recommend using them. I did. Helped me a lot so that I knew whether he was getting hysterical, crying, things like that. So you're going to move outside of the door and then just monitor them from the sleep monitor as well. And you should and you will see progress with them falling asleep a lot quicker each night. So this is what I did with my son. And by that time, he was able to fall asleep maybe at 10-15 minutes by the time I was walking out the door on his own. And after that, he would sleep through the night. So this is the routine that I used for my son with staying in the room and then gradually moving out of the room. This way, I didn't feel like I was just abandoning my kid, like, oh, okay, now you just got to figure out how to sleep on your own, and I'm going to leave you here by yourself. No, you don't have to do it that way. I know a lot of parents don't feel comfortable leaving their kid to just cry for about 1 or 2 hours until they fall asleep. So you're not abandoning them in any way. You're just staying by them, and you're there for comfort and support, and they know that you're there so that they can fall asleep on their own. Just keep in mind when you're doing this routine that do not go back to doing what you were doing before. I know it's hard when you hear them crying, especially if they're getting pretty upset, that you want to just, okay, let's just put them back to nursing and then they'll just fall asleep, which is very tempting to do, I know, but if you do that, you're just going to confuse them more. It'll only teach them to cry even longer to get what they want, and then you'll be starting back from zero, where they cry as long as they can until they get what they want, which is something they need to learn from the beginning, that no matter what, mom decides what you're going to do, and this is going to have to be something you figure out on your own. So please just stay consistent and keep moving forward. Don't go backwards with this. This is what I recommend from the start. Okay, so now you've got your baby to sleep. They're able to fall asleep on their own at the beginning of the night, and now it's the middle of the night and you hear them wake up at some point crying. If your baby is still pretty young and you're still feeding them, then you're going to do, first things first, you're going to wait. You're going to wait at least 5 to 10 minutes. See if they really are hungry, or if maybe they're just in the middle of some sleep cycle and they're just stirring for a little bit, and so they cry, and then they can get themselves back to sleep on their own. So you're going to wait 5 to 10 minutes, and see if you really do need to go into the room, then you can go in after the 10 minutes. So just try to wait, listen to them through the monitor if you have a monitor, but just don't go rushing in right away. Give them the chance to figure it out on their own. So with my son, surprisingly, he, by the 10-minute mark, almost 90% of the time, he would fall asleep by the 10-minute mark. I was just about to go in and head in and help him out, but he would fall asleep on his own. So I never actually had to go back in and help him. He was older. I mean, he was already about 11 months at the time, so I didn't plan on feeding him anymore through the night because he didn't need that. But if your baby is younger, maybe about 3 to 4 months old, you can go in if they are still getting nighttime feedings. First wait the 10 minutes and then go in, give them their feeding, try to keep them awake as much as possible, but with very little stimulus. You know, just use a night light, don't turn on the bright lights, things like that, because then they'll think it's morning time and completely confuse them. So just go in and give them their feeding and try to keep them awake, and then lay them down again so that they can fall asleep. And if you need to stay in the room to help till they fall asleep, that's fine. And just continue to do the same routine till they fall asleep during the night as well. So when your baby wakes up at night, first things, wait 5 to 10 minutes to see if they get to sleep on their own again. So another tip that I do recommend is getting your baby, infant, toddler to sleep early and at a consistent bedtime, because kids need a lot of sleep, a lot more sleep than adults do. For one thing, they're growing during the nighttime, their body's rejuvenating, and when they don't get good sleep, they are cranky during the day. Obviously, we all know how that goes, and it's fussiness and, you know, not fun during the day for sleepy babies. But also, I noticed that when your baby goes to sleep late and overly tired, they wake up more often during the night. With my son, whenever we got him to sleep really late, he would make up earlier, maybe about 4 hours after he'd fallen asleep. I would hear him crying, and I was thinking, well, my goodness, he was so tired. How can he be awake crying at this time? But for some reason, when they're overly tired, they wake up more often. They don't get as good a restful sleep as they normally would, maybe because they're not going through their sleep cycle the way they normally would, as gradually as they normally would. But I did notice this with my son, and it is common with younger kids that they do wake up more often when they go to bed overly tired. And they still wake up at the same time in the morning because they don't know how to sleep in. As adults, we look at the time and we realize if we don't have to get up yet, then we go back to sleep. Obviously, we don't do that when we have kids anymore because they don't sleep in. Kids wake up and they see that they're energetic and they're ready for the day at 6, 7 in the morning. So it's best to get them to sleep early and consistently on time so that they get their rest throughout the night and have a good day for the next day. So I hope these tips were helpful for you. This is how I went from completely dreading bedtime, getting no rest during the night, to getting my son to sleep on his own, in his own crib, and sleeping through the night using the Sleep Sense program. Thank you, Dana Obleman, for your program. This helped me tremendously, and I hope that this helps you get started on your journey for sleep training your baby. And if you do like this video, please subscribe to the channel, and we're going to have more videos to come. Next up, I'm going to talk about how I sleep trained my second son starting at 1 month of age, which has helped me tremendously. So please, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. That was not a good transition.